We built smart housing prototypes, turned condemned zones into micro-villages with green tech. One city noticed. Then another and another. I didn't chase flashy headlines. I let the design speak. I let the numbers prove it. I let the silence grow roots. 3 years ago, I created a holding company, Havenline Properties, a name no one would trace back to me. Through it, I bought my first high-end plot in Beverly Crest. At the time, I didn't know that my parents had just moved into a leased home there, but when I found out, I didn't change a thing. I didn't raise their rent. I didn't make demands. I didn't even visit the site. I just kept buying, lot by lot, block by block, until Havenline owned nearly the entire street. No one knew. And that was the point. See, when people strip you of your voice long enough, you learn to build with your hands. And once you build enough, you don't need to knock. You own the door. I remember standing at one of the sites one afternoon, hard hat on, clipboard in hand, watching workers remove outdated fences. The foreman turned to me and asked, "What are we calling this neighborhood?" I paused, then smiled. "Let's call it the second look," I said. "It's for people who never got a first one." The notice went out 3 weeks after Christmas. A quiet little envelope, hand-delivered to every home in the neighborhood, tucked under doormats and slipped into mail slots like nothing more than a seasonal coupon. But it wasn't a coupon. It was the beginning. The letter came from Havenline Properties, addressed politely to all residents of Beverly Crest South. This letter serves as formal notification that Havenline will begin the Phase 1 redevelopment plan starting March 15th. Leaseholders may choose to vacate voluntarily with early incentives or enter temporary relocation assistance during structural renovation. All properties impacted have been acquired under holding entities affiliated with Havenline. In plain terms, everyone had to go, and my parents were one of them. I didn't send the notice myself. That would have been too obvious. But I did approve every sentence, every word, even the font. When my mom called me, after months of silence, I let it go to voicemail. She didn't leave a message. Instead, she showed up at my office 2 days later. Not my public showroom, the real one. The studio in downtown LA where my team and I mapped out entire cities in scale models and 3D scans. She didn't make it past the reception desk. My assistant Emma asked if I wanted to see her. "Tell her I'm in meetings all day," I said, without looking up from the redevelopment blueprint. Because I was. Because I had work to do. A week later, my dad sent a group email to the entire neighborhood HOA, calling Havenline predatory and soulless. He CC'd city officials, the press, anyone who'd listen. He didn't know I was CC'd too. He didn't know that I was Havenline. And the irony? The soulless corporation he condemned had actually offered them a buyout twice their lease value, plus full relocation support. They ignored it, insisted they had rights, even threatened legal action. I didn't flinch, because I remembered exactly how it felt when they told me I had no place in the family. Now, they were the ones being told, quietly, professionally, that they no longer had a place in mine. People think revenge is loud, but honestly, sometimes it just looks like a well-written notice on premium letterhead. The neighborhood grapevine caught fire within days. My parents claimed Havenline was a corporate bully, exploiting working-class retirees. They told neighbors they were ambushed, manipulated, lied to. Suddenly, they became victims in a story they had written themselves. At the next HOA meeting, my dad stood up and said, "We've lived here 7 years, and now some faceless entity wants to bulldoze the only community we have left." Someone clapped, someone cried, someone recorded the whole thing and posted it on Facebook. And that's when things unraveled. A local real estate blogger picked up the story. She started digging, cross-referencing property records, legal filings, and ownership chains. She found the shell companies. She found Havenline's structure. She found me. Architect Camille Alvarez revealed as force behind Beverly Crest redevelopment. The headline read, "Family's eviction led by daughter they disowned." The article exploded. Not because of the development plan, but because of the backstory. People love irony. And my family served it on a silver platter. A daughter kicked out for lacking direction grows up to quietly own the land her parents call home. A Christmas dinner where she wasn't allowed to sit at the table, followed by a business notice telling her parents they didn't have one either. After that, everything changed. The press contacted me for comment. I declined. The public formed their own opinion. Some called me petty, others called me powerful. But the truth, I didn't do this to humiliate anyone. I did it because they never gave me space to become anything at all. Jason, my brother, texted me. "Wow, didn't see that coming? Kinda savage, Cam." I didn't reply. My dad emailed again. This time, no threats. Just a one-line question. Why would you do this to your own family? I stared at the screen for a long time. Then typed, "You made it clear I wasn't part of it," and hit send. Let them say what they want. Let them twist the story to feel better. Because the truth was never loud. It was quiet. It lived in every year I was forgotten. And now it had paperwork. 6 months later, the old street had a new name, The Second Look. Brick by brick, tree by tree, it was becoming something entirely different. Cleaner lines, open walkways, rooftop gardens, solar mesh facades, a place for new beginnings, designed by someone who never got one. Camille Alvarez wasn't a rumor anymore. She wasn't hiding behind holding companies or redirecting press inquiries. Her name was on the renderings, the signage, the permits. The woman they once dismissed as directionless was now shaping the direction of an entire district. One afternoon, as we finalized the model home interior, Emma, my lead designer, came in holding a tablet. "There's someone downstairs asking to see you," she said gently. "Your mom," I didn't answer right away. She wasn't on the list. She hadn't called, she hadn't earned it. But something in Emma's voice made me pause. "Send her up," I said. She walked in slowly, looking smaller than I remembered. "Camille," she whispered. "This is quite an office." I waited. She sat across from me, fingers nervously knotting together. "I'm not here to fight," she said. I didn't know about all this, about you." That part almost made me laugh. She didn't know because she never asked. "Your father's not doing well," she continued. "Jason moved out. He's angry. The neighbors won't speak to us. Everything feels like it's falling apart." I stayed quiet. "Can we fix this?" she asked. "Not the house, the family." I finally spoke. "That's not up to me anymore." She looked at me like she was seeing me for the first time, but I wasn't interested in being seen. I was interested in being respected. "I built something from the place you threw me out of," I said quietly. "And I did it without you." She wiped a tear but didn't argue. There was nothing left to defend. "Emma will walk you out," I said. And that was it. Later that night, I walked the construction site as lights flickered on down the street. New families were moving in, artists, teachers, people starting fresh. On the side of the main building, a mural was going up, one I'd commissioned. It read, "A second look changes everything. If you've ever been cast aside by people who were supposed to know your worth, just know this. You don't need their permission to rise." Last Christmas, I stood outside a house I technically owned, watching my family celebrate inside, pretending I didn't exist. My name is Camille Alvarez. I'm 30 years old. And when my parents asked me to sit with the catering staff, I realized they didn't invite me back. They invited a version of me they could still ignore. They had no idea this was their last Christmas in that house. I arrived 15 minutes early. The house glowed with warm lights, fake snow sprinkled across the lawn, carol music humming faintly from the living room. From the outside, it looked like something off a Hallmark card. Inside, it felt more like a stage I was never meant to walk on. When my mom opened the door, she smiled with that sharp kind of politeness you give to strangers who came uninvited. She gave me a quick hug and glanced behind her. "Camille, sweetie, would you mind helping the catering staff out back for a bit? We're still figuring out the seating, and you know how space gets tight with extended family." Extended family. The irony nearly made me laugh. I was her daughter. Behind her, I saw my younger brother Jason laughing with Uncle Ron over bourbon. Jason, who dropped out of his business program twice, was seated next to our grandfather at the main table, already being toasted as the future of the Alvarez name. I didn't see a single extra chair. Dad passed by without a word, Just a stiff nod and a pat on Jason's back. I swallowed everything I wanted to say and stepped quietly out to the side patio, where the catering team was arranging trays of canapes and mini quiches. No one there knew I was family, and I didn't correct them. I stood there, clutching a glass of cider I didn't want, surrounded by laughter I didn't feel part of. No one came to check on me. No one noticed I never went in. No one cared. And in that moment, I realized something. They hadn't invited me to reconnect. They'd invited me so they could feel better about cutting me off. They wanted to say we included her, all while making sure I never forgot my place. But here's what they didn't know. I had already bought that house, and the Christmas dinner they so proudly hosted was the last one they'd ever have in it. I didn't leave the Christmas dinner that night angry. I left hollow. The drive back to my condo was quiet. No music, no phone calls, just me and the dull echo of my mom's voice in my head. It's not personal, Camille. There's just not enough space. Not enough space. That line kept looping even as I pulled into my garage, where there was more space than I needed because I lived alone. Always had. When I was 19, I got kicked out of my parents' house for being disrespectful. The disrespect? Telling them I wanted to study architecture instead of joining Jason in finance. My dad said I was throwing my future away. My mom said I was being dramatic. And then one night, after another shouting match, my things were in boxes by the front door. Come back when you've figured yourself out, my dad said. But what he really meant was, don't come back unless you become someone we can brag about. I didn't come back. I couch surfed, waited tables, took night classes. There were days I couldn't afford both lunch and printing costs for my studio projects, so I skipped lunch. I remember once mailing home a hand-drawn concept I was proud of. It was a community center built into a hillside with natural airflow and green roofing. My mom sent it back with a post-it that said, "Looks like something you'd see in a homeless shelter." That one stuck with me. I spent the next few years trying to prove her wrong. Then I spent the few after that trying not to care. The truth is, I did care. For a long time, I just wanted one call, one text, one, "We're proud of you." But it never came. So I stopped waiting. Instead, I built something of my own. My first renovation project was a duplex in East LA, then a full block of abandoned homes in Highland Park. Then I started partnering with cities to revive forgotten neighborhoods. Each time I signed a deal, I thought, would they care now? Each time the answer was no. And that's the part no one tells you. Even when you succeed, the silence can still hurt. Have you ever reached a point where you stopped hoping they'd see you differently? If so, yeah, you're not alone. The last time I texted my mom just to say hi was 5 years ago. She never replied. After that, I didn't reach out again. Not out of spite, just clarity. I finally understood that family, at least the kind I grew up with, was a one-way street. And I had been walking it alone for too long. So I chose something else. Silence. Not the kind that screams, "I'm angry." The kind that says, "I'm done explaining myself." That's when everything changed. I doubled down on work. I stopped second-guessing my instinct and started trusting my own vision. I hired a tiny team, people who'd been overlooked like I had.